Lesson 2 of Module 6, Implement and Manage Storage. In this lesson, we'll describe how to implement several of storage options available in Microsoft Azure. We'll introduce some of the most common tools and utilities that can be used to manage Azure storage. More specifically, we'll explain how to create a storage account, as well as how to implement blobs, tables, queues, and Azure files. You can create a storage account in the new preview portal, the Azure Management portal, or programmatically, for example by using the new Azure Storage Account PowerShell commandlet. A storage account name must contain between 3 and 24 characters and can include only lowercase letters and numerals. When you create a storage account, you need to choose its redundancy level. You choose the level of redundancy based on replication locations, number of copies, and effectively resiliency level, which is in turn reflected by the storage pricing. Your first and least expensive choice is locally redundant storage. In this case, there are 3 copies of data. Data is replicated 3 times within a single facility in a single region. This means that it's not protected against failure of a single facility. Another option you have is geo-redundant storage, and that's enabled for a storage account by default when the account is created. This keeps 6 copies of your data, which is replicated 3 times within the primary region and also 3 times in a secondary region. In the event of a failure of the primary region, Azure storage will fail over to the secondary region. So effectively you have a protection against region-wide failure. An option that you have when implementing geo-redundant storage is to go for read-only geo-redundant storage, in which data in the secondary location can be accessed for read-only operations, and this might come handy if you want to offload reporting or data analysis to another location without affecting the primary copy. The fourth option that's not actually displayed on the slide is zone redundant storage, which stores 3 copies of data, but in this case data is replicated 3 times across 2 or 3 facilities, either within a single region or across 2 regions. So that's a bit of a step up from the resiliency level offered by locally redundant storage. As we mentioned earlier, access to storage is protected by using access keys. When you create a storage account, Azure generates a primary and secondary key for the storage account. It also generates endpoints for access to data storage, and there's a separate endpoint for each storage type, namely blob, queue, table, and file, although file, as we mentioned before, is currently in preview. While you can create storage accounts by using either of 2 Azure portals, you cannot truly manage their content through the same interface. Fortunately, there is a long list of tools that simplify this task. Some of them are listed on the slide, for example, AZCopy or Azure Storage Explorer. This is offered through Codeplex. In addition, you can also use Visual Studio 2013 or Visual Studio Express 2013 for web. And within the interface of Visual Studio, you'll find Server Explorer through which you can connect to your storage account and then work interactively with each of the storage types. In addition, you can use for this purpose PowerShell, or if you're a developer, you can also use REST APIs and client libraries. Blobs are stored in a container within an Azure storage account, and containers can be created programmatically or in either of the 2 Azure portals. When you create a container, you must give it a name and specify the level of access to its content. And this access can be set to private, public blob, or public container. Private is the default, and this implies that access to the container must be authenticated either by using the storage access keys or shared access signatures. Public blob allows public anonymous read access to the blobs in the container. Public container allows public anonymous read access to blobs in the container, as well as to the container metadata itself. You can view, modify, and upload blobs and manage blob containers using tools such as AZCopy or Azure Storage Explorer, as well as you can use for this purpose Azure PowerShell commandlets. Tables and queues are typically created programmatically by applications which then read and write their content. This content would be either key value pairs when it comes to tables and messages in regard to queues. You can view and manage tables by using any of the tools we mentioned before. You have Azure Storage Explorer listed on the slide. You can certainly use the others. Or by using PowerShell. And you have some sample PowerShell commandlets that you can use to accomplish that. In regard to tables, you would use NuGet or remove Azure storage table. Similarly with queues, you would use NuGet remove Azure storage queue. Notice that each one of those commands includes context. That's a security context that you can establish by referencing the Azure account and it's one of its keys. As mentioned earlier, you also have the option to store data in Azure files. This option is relatively new. It's actually still in preview. It provides SMB 2.1 access to files, so effectively you can use it in a manner very similar to using file shares. When you create a new storage account, the account will automatically contain the file endpoint. You can see its format on the slide. Note that it includes the word file. And if you work on a VM that's residing in the same region, same data center as the storage account that hosts the Azure Files endpoint, you can actually map to it by using netuse command. The only caveat is you obviously won't be using traditional credentials that you would use on premises. You provide credentials that identify the storage account and also specify the corresponding access key. If you want to access Azure Files across regions, then you would resort to REST API, PowerShell, or AZCopy. So now it's time for our first demonstration of this module. We're gonna implement storage. In particular, we're gonna first create a storage account. We're gonna use PowerShell to upload blobs to this account, and then we're gonna view blob storage in Visual Studio. We'll start our demo by creating a new storage account by using Azure Preview Portal. To get there, from the Internet Explorer window, we're going to type in portal.azure.com. In case you get prompted for authentication, just make sure to type in the name of the Microsoft account and that is associated with your subscription, along with the corresponding password. In my case, these credentials were cached. In the portal interface, I'll click New in the lower left corner. In the New blade, I'll click the Everything link. Then in the Marketplace blade, I'll click Storage Cache plus Backup. In the resulting blade, I'll click Storage. And in the Storage blade, I'll click Create. At this point, I'm prompted to provide a unique name that will identify my storage account. I'm going to use MS20533ST1 and verify that it is unique. I'll use the default standard GRS pricing tier. I'll create a new resource group called demo storage. Click OK in the Create Resource Group blade. Verify that I'm using the locations closest to me. In my case, I'm going to use East US 2. And I'm going to leave diagnostics as not configured and uncheck the checkbox Add to Startboard. And then click Create and wait for the storage account to be provisioned. The new storage account was successfully provisioned. I can verify it by checking notifications. Now I'm going to create a new container within that storage account. And to do this, I'm going to click Browse, then scroll down to Storage Accounts in the Browse blade. Click the storage account that we created in the Storage Accounts blade. Next, in the MS20533ST1 blade that represents the newly provisioned blade, I'll click the Containers tile and then click Add to create a new container. And I'll call it Demo Container and use the default private access type for it. Click OK. And as you can see, the new container was fairly quickly provisioned for us. I'm going to close the Containers blade, and just for your information, I'll look at the keys for my storage account by clicking the Keys tile. And as you can see, I can from here view and copy both primary and secondary access keys. To complete this step, I'll close the blades within the portal and return to the start board. In this part of the demo, I'll upload some sample files into the newly created container within the newly created storage account. And to accomplish this, I'll use Windows PowerShell ISE and a pre-created script. I'll open the script first. Click Open the toolbar in the Windows PowerShell ISE window. Navigate to the demo files mod06. Click Upload blobs.ps1. Click Open. And this should open the script within the Windows PowerShell ISE window. Next, I'm going to verify I'm actually using the correct subscription. One way to check that would be to run get Azure account, Azure storage account, PowerShell commandlet, and verify I can actually see the storage account I created earlier. And I can see that this is the case. I'm going to copy the name of this storage account and replace the placeholder within the script, which assigns the value or the name of the storage account to the storage account name PowerShell variable. I'll save the script. And before we run it, let's step through it and verify that we understand what it's supposed to happen. So I'm creating two PowerShell variables, storage account name and container name, representing respectively the name of the newly created storage account and the name of the newly created container within that storage account. Then I'm going to identify the location where the script is actually located right now, and then look at the content of the data subfolder of that folder. And we can actually verify its content by going to File Explorer or opening that folder from within the Windows PowerShell ISE window. And this subfolder contains essentially three text files, data1, data2, and data3. So the expectations is to upload these three files into the newly created container. In the script, I'm going to retrieve the storage account key and create a context, security context that's based on this particular storage account key. And finally, within a loop, within the for each loop, I'm going to identify individual files within the data folder, and then upload each one of them one by one. So at this point, let's launch the script by clicking Run Script, and let's see the outcome. As you can see, I managed to successfully upload 3 files into my storage accounts container. And to conclude our demo, we'll use Visual Studio to view the content of the container within a storage account in our subscription. To accomplish this, from Visual Studio interface, we'll click Tools, and we're going to connect to our Microsoft Azure subscription. I'll sign in using my Microsoft account. Wait for the prompt. Type in the password for the account. And then go to Server Explorer. Go to Storage within my Azure subscription. And I can identify the storage account I used, MS20533ST1. I'll click to expand it, then click Blobs, and I can see the demo container within it, and I can open it, and as expected, I can see 3 files we recently uploaded to it. And this concludes our demo. To summarize, in this lesson we described how to create a storage account. We listed different storage access tools you can use, and we also presented you with steps necessary to implement blobs, tables, queues, and Azure files. And we also provided a simple demo illustrating how to implement a storage account, storage container, and how to upload and view some data files into that storage container.